you can accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. And I am especially biased to young women because we carry a lot of weight, or heavy burdens, I should say, because you're Black, you're a woman, and then you try the rodeo. So don't let anybody tell you what you can or cannot do.
We'll discuss race and how it plays a factor and how we didn't even talk about this topic because we were afraid.
A Black Executive Perspective.
Welcome to a Black Executive Perspective podcast, a safe space where we discuss all matters related to race, especially race in corporate America. I'm your host, TonyTidbit.
And I'm your co-host, Chris P. Reed. We want to start off like we always do by shouting out our partners at Code M Magazine. Code M Magazine, where their mission is saving the Black family by first saving the Black man. That is CodeMMagazine, 2Ms.com, CodeMMagazine.com.
Exactly. Make sure you check them out. And check out today. We have Valeria Howard Cunningham, president and owner of the Bill Pickett Invitational Rodeo, the world's only African-American touring rodeo led by a Black woman. Valeria will discuss the rodeo's challenging beginnings, her decision to continue its legacy, and the impactful team of Black women propelling it forward. We'll also explore the significant milestones since her leadership began in 2015 and the community initiatives driven by BPIR Foundation, including educational retreats, wellness programs, and how her team uses rodeo to foster community empowerment and cultural preservation.
And before we go into that, I want to dig a little bit further into the person that we'll be engaged with today. So let me just give you a little more information about her, and then she'll be able to color that in with some notes and stories, I'm sure. But Valeria Howard Cunningham is the owner and president of the Bill Pickett Invitational Rodeo, the world's only African-American touring traveling rodeo. Additionally, she leads the Bill Pickett Memorial Scholarship Fund. Before dedicating herself fully to the rodeo, she was a senior vice president at USI Insurance Corporation, one of the largest insurance brokerage firms in the United States. Valeria's leadership of the rodeo began in 2015 after the passing of her husband, the rodeo's founder. Moved by the community's dedication to the event, she took on the role to preserve and enhance its legacy. Under her guidance, the rodeo has reached new heights. It's completely thriving, including the partnerships with prominent rodeo boards, a special event in Las Vegas, and a live broadcast on national TV, including a historic broadcast on Juneteenth. Valeria is committed to transforming the rodeo into a platform that showcases the resilience and the talent of Black women, changing the face of traditionally male-dominated sport. She believes in the power of community to drive the organization forward, celebrating the impact and influence of Black women and Blacks in the rodeo. Valeria Howard Cunningham, welcome to a Black Executive Perspective podcast.
Thank you. I am honored to be with you gentlemen today.
Thank you so much. So let's start off by tell us a little bit about where you are currently and where your family is and what's going on currently.
Well, I am currently in Atlanta, Georgia, which is where I live now. I moved from Denver, Colorado to Atlanta after COVID. My family is in California. My now husband's family is also in California. But his brothers and sisters are out here in Georgia. And my family, some of my family is in Columbia, South Carolina. So we felt Atlanta was kind of, close to everybody. We could share each other.
Right. Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. And so, Valeria, we're excited. Number one, we're honored for you to be here. I mean, as Chris went through your bio, you have accomplished a lot. More importantly, you've opened up so many doors in the industry of rodeo, which we're going to dive into. And look, you've been on a lot of publications. You've done a lot of podcasts. Chris talked about the television show. So you're in, people are looking to chat with you. You've chatted on a lot of platforms. So our question is, why did you want to come on a Black Executive Perspective podcast to discuss this topic?
Anytime I have an opportunity to share with our community about our journey and why it's important, and mainly to encourage somebody else that's listening, I want to take that opportunity. And so I thank you guys for creating the venue that you've created and allowing me to participate today. Because, I don't get hung up on titles. I get hung up on how we can help each other and lift each other up.
Well, I love that. And if everybody had that type of attitude, there'll be a lot of uplifting going on, right?
Absolutely.
But you have uplifted a lot. So are you ready to talk about it? Because we're ready to dive into your story and all the things.
Let's go. I'm always ready to talk.
All right, let's talk about it.
So, you know what? I think what we should start is at the beginning. And that's always the best place to start. Tell us how you found out about this, or how you became understanding of Bill Pickett and the rodeo as a whole. Because from what it sounds like, you didn't grow up in the Western kind of frontier lifestyle. I mean, by your accent and everything else, I mean, it just seems a little different. So it's kind of offsetting. I would love to know the origins of the Bill Pickett Invitational Rodeo.
Absolutely. It's a kind of funny story. I was actually traveling back from Columbia to Denver, Colorado, when I met the founder of the Bill Pickett Invitational Rodeo, Lou Bassan. And we were on an airplane and we were chatting, and he asked me about a rodeo, and I didn't know what a rodeo was, so I was quite embarrassed about that. But anyway, he told me what he was doing. We started dating. And as we started dating, he invited me to his first rodeo, which was in August of 1984. However, I had tickets to Michael Jackson. So I'm afraid to tell you that Michael won out.
Absolutely.
And I missed the first Bill Pickett Invitational Rodeo. However, after that, I did, as we dated more and I started getting acclimated to what he was doing, I was exposed to rodeo. Believe me, I had gone back and done the research, so I knew what a rodeo was by then. But I got acclimated, and one of the things that stood out to me is that the incredible talent that it takes for these contestants to do what they do. And I was kind of like everybody else. You never saw Black cowboys or cowgirls on television or movie theaters. You didn't read about them in the history books. So I was quite impressed to see that there were so many Black cowboys and cowgirls. And so let me back up just a little bit. Lou Bassan, who is the founder, had gone to a rodeo in 1977 in Cheyenne, Wyoming, to Cheyenne Frontier Dates, and it is called the grandfather of rodeos.
Okay.
And when he went there, he noticed that he did not see anybody that looked like him. So he came back and did his research. He found in his research that there were thousands of Black cowboys and cowgirls across the country, but they were not given the opportunity to perform on certain platforms. He met with a lot of different Black historians like Paul Stewart at the African American Heritage Rodeo in Denver, Colorado, and just learned everything he could about Blacks in the development of the West. He reached out to other people across the country, stock contractors, Black stock contractors, to learn more. And after he was doing his research, he said, you know what? This story needs to be told. I am going to create an African American Rodeo Association, and I am going to allow that association to educate people, entertain people. And he did that by creating the Bill Pickett Invitational Rodeo. Now, when he started the first rodeo, it was not called Bill Pickett. It was just called the Black Rodeo. And doing his research, he learned about who Bill Pickett was. And he reached out to the Pickett family and asked if he could name the rodeo after Bill Pickett, because the world needed to know who Bill Pickett was. And the family graciously agreed and gave permission. And ever since then, the rodeo has been called the Bill Pickett Invitational Rodeo. So that gives you a little history about how it started.
Right, right. Let me say something that I think may have escaped you, and maybe it hasn't. But you talked about you learning of a rodeo, doing your research, and you talked about he learning, going to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and seeing the rodeo and then doing his research. For all of our younger viewers, there was no internet. He didn't Google that. He had to go read up on that, and it was painstaking. For you to come back in '84 and learn about something, it wasn't just you get on your phone and you type in a word and it gives you everything people's opinions of, this thing is. You really like this man. So, you had to go in and do the work.
You had the libraries, encyclopedias that are 20 years old, right, by the time you get them.
You had to do your research, and you are absolutely correct. We forget about the old days where things were not at our fingertips, and that you had to work to educate yourself. It did not come easy. You had to talk to people. You had to seek people out. You had to read books. You had to spend time in a library. That's what it was all about. But we were in that generation about maybe educating ourselves about things that we didn't know about, and I am very thankful that you didn't have this.
Right.
Push a button and somebody tells you what you ought to think or what maybe you ought to know. And then spending time with the people in the rodeo, hearing their stories, learning what they were about, their struggles. It just made you appreciate these Black cowboys and cowgirls and want to tell their stories, want to provide them a platform like no other platform that they had been provided. And that was one of Blue's main objectives, is to create a platform that they had never been on. Now, they did a lot of backyard rodeos, but that's backyard.
Right.
He wanted them to go into venues and buildings and that they've never been in, and open doors for them to progress to the next level of the association. I can tell you at the beginning, we were like a feeder ground. People would come and rodeo with our association, learn their skills, or, just get better at what they're doing. And then they would leave us and go to the white rodeo associations. And that's good. That wasn't a bad thing. That was a great thing, because then we're introducing Black cowboys and cowgirls to a much larger audience.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's interesting because, again, when we talk about what your husband started, your former husband, and you talked about how it's important to have a platform to share the stories that the cowboys and cowgirls was going through. I would love for you to share the story of what you guys were going through in terms of the resistance that you dealt with. Because here's the thing now I've been to Cheyenne, Wyoming, okay? And I just sit here and think the courage that when he said he went to a rodeo in Cheyenne and he didn't see anybody look like him, I'm just amazed that he even went.
It's time to rethink your protein. AgriLab's protein bars are crafted with high-quality protein, double the leucine, and enriched branched-chain amino acids, essential for optimal muscle recovery. Finally, a protein bar that works as hard as you do. So visit agrilabs.com and use the code BEP to get 20% off. That's agrilabs.com, promo code BEP.
Okay? And then the resistance of trying to start something that history has erased, right? I don't think a lot of people who were coming to those rodeos knew about the Black cowboys and people before them and the Buffalo Soldiers, and then the Mexicans and the Native Americans who actually were at the forefront when it came to lassoing and all the things that you do from a rodeo standpoint. So now you're trying to break in to an industry that's 100% white, I would imagine, okay? And more importantly, you want to elevate the people whose voices are being silenced, okay? And then to be able to do that where there's nothing you could look at as a guide, all right, to say this is the handbook of how to do it, all right? Talk to us a little about, because the average person dealing with that type of, that's all, you can also call it, you can also say it's insurmountable. Wouldn't want to pick up that cross and carry that cross because they had a million reasons why it wouldn't work. So talk a little bit about that resistance that you guys went through in those early days.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up because the journey has not been easy. When Lou, and you have to know his background to understand it, he was a concert promoter. He put groups together like the Pointer Sisters. He was the manager of Whispers. I mean, he promoted Black entertainment all across the country. But one thing when he said he was going to do something, it was going to happen, irregardless of who said it wasn't going to happen. And when he made the decision that he was going to create this rodeo association, the first thing you would be surprised at is that his Black friends and community was very negative. They were constantly telling him he was crazy, he was not going to be successful, nobody was going to attend, you were just, barking up the wrong tree. It was just the constant negative. And he did not let that deter him. He forged ahead. When I talked about the first rodeo in Denver, it was sold out. And it got a lot of people's attention. He couldn't get sponsors for that rodeo because first thing, we're talking about 1984. You were doing something for the first time. It's not proven. Nobody's going to give you any money because they don't know if one person's going to show up or 3,000 people are going to show up.
Right.
So now you are out there just betting on the unknown. After he did that first show, he was able to convince some sponsors, and I'm not going to call anybody's name,
Right.
but some sponsors to support, which they did. But let me share this with you. because he wanted to sing a Black national anthem and have the Black American flag in the opening of the rodeo, it caused chaos to the nth degree. And corporate was saying, you can't do that. We're not going to support you. So Lou, being Lou, said, take your money and put it where the sun doesn't shine.
I love it.
And you know what? They acclimated. But
Okay.
in a much less way. So you have to, lesson that I learned from that is that everything has to be managed. And you have to learn from every experience that you go through. Now, he was pissed off. So you take him in, you set him down and breathe deeply because you can't make this happen without their money.
So true.
That's the reality of life.
That's so
They
true.
control everything,
That's
and
so
you can't make this happen without their money. So how do we do what we need to do and try to keep everybody happy? We figured it out. And we still had the African American flag, the Black flag, because we were not going to compromise on that subject. As things progressed, people began to accept it as they saw a number of people that were supporting the rodeos around the country. He expanded. At one time, Lou was doing 13 rodeos. And I was learning more of the business, and I'm that person that will challenge you and anybody else. Okay, you're doing all these rodeos because you want everybody in the United States to be exposed. But some of these shows aren't making any money. You're losing your shirt. And you've got to evaluate the business aspect of it. And so finally, I was able to get through to him, and he decided, okay, what do we do? What don't we do? And we were able to create a circuit with support of the communities, and then with that support of the community, the sponsors continue to support or came on as new supporters. I tell anybody that asks this question, the journey was not easy. There were times that we had many conversations about, we don't have the money to move forward. So it would have been very easy for us to say, okay, it's done, it's over. But we didn't. We found a way to do it personally until the rodeo was able to sustain itself.
You come off to me as a very conscientious, level-headed, well-thought person, and it seems like you've always been that way. And he was a maverick, like you said. You know, he was ahead of his time. Let me say it, both of you, congratulations, and I appreciate the fact that you guys were so ahead of your time in this. We're going to do it our way. We're going to make our own path. But as trailblazers, it's interesting that your influence in the business world was able to meld into what he was doing as a visionary leader, and you guys work so well together, and that's a wonderful thing. But I know that you have cowgirls. You spoke of cowboys and cowgirls earlier, and so you have steer wrestlers and calf ropers and, bulldoggers and things like that. But of the women that you've assembled since you've taken over, this wonderful panel of intellectuals that actually lead this charge into the next generation to expose this to communities like he wanted and to carry out his vision. are any of them cowgirls? Because you're not a cowgirl. You more of a business maverick kind of mogul type chick.
You know, that's
And
right,
so-
right? I mean, that was a fortuitous flight.
Man,
I would say
golly.
that, right? Because he met exactly
Exactly
what he
bro.
needed, right?
Exactly.
Well, I believe that God always put the right people together at the right time, not at our time, but at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So if I could back up and just share the journey, and what I mean by the journey is that Lou became ill, and he was not able to travel with the rodeos, so I was kind of the front person for the rodeo. And I got to know everybody, the cowgirls, the coordinators in each market, because now I'm pushing the buttons and listening to what they want to do and either saying yes or no. So
Right.
anyway, after Lou passed, I have to tell you, I was like a deer just staring in the headlights. But people from across the country, reached out to me many different ways: telephone, letters, email, just asking me not to let the rodeo go. And it was interesting as I talked to them or read their stories, how much the rodeo meant to them and their families. I mean, some people share it with me that when they came to the rodeo the first time, they were pregnant. And then they brought their kids to the rodeo every year since then. And now their kids were having kids, and they wanted their grandkids to have the experience. And I'm going, wow, I had never thought about that. But that was, it was just very impressive. And I'm going, okay, this rodeo has had an effect on our community. So if I become selfish and say, this wasn't my dream, I'm going to let it go. I'm hurting the community. So I decided, okay, what would it look like if I forged ahead? The women around me, Margot Wade LaDrew, who is, she was the coordinator in Los Angeles, said, I got your back. You're not on this journey by yourself. My daughter-in-law, Sherry Rasan in Oakland, California, she's the Oakland coordinator, says, we're with you every step of the way. Cowgirls, Stephanie Haynes, Denise Tyus, Carolyn Carter, they all are like, girl, we got you. Don't worry about it. What you don't know, you're going to learn. We got you.
Right.
And so, at that moment, I felt, I can do this. I can do this. And so we forged ahead. And since 2015, we have been on an incredible journey. We have been like sisters. We love each other, but we've disagreed. We've had fallen outs. But at the end of the day, we hugging and making up, and we're marching forward. And so I hope that just gives you an answer to your question, because I would not have been able to do this without the encouragement and the support of these sisters saying, we can do this.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. We need the men because I need them out in that arena taking care of things. And I need them to also impart knowledge to me of things that I need to be aware of when I'm talking to stock contractors. And
Right.
remember, all the stock contractors were white stock contractors. Now,
Right.
talking to a Black woman, I can tell you the first year, it was very interesting because they thought I was just another little pretty face, that I didn't know what I was doing. And when it came down to negotiating, they found out that Sister Girl knew what she was talking about. And you know what? Life has progressed. But not without challenges, even when you are trying to negotiate TV buys or radio buys or whatever. People just assume that because you're a Black female, you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
So you have to prepare yourself. And to the audience, I would say to young people, you can be anything you want to be. Prepare yourself. Equip yourself. And the sky is the limit.
Let me ask you this, because you assembled a board of directors of women that you trusted and that you grew to love and that supported you. But in the idea of it was still male dominated, it was still white dominated.
Correct.
Y'all really stacked the deck against yourself, being predominantly women, first and foremost. Let's just keep it real. And then obviously Black
women, right? Black,
unapologetically
Black women. Black women.
Unapologetic, like you said, y'all ain't come off the flag. Y'all didn't come off the
So if
anything.
Black dudes was dealing with a bunch of stuff, if a husband was dealing, think about Black women now.
Absolutely. So with that being said, and you talked about how your people big upping you and taking you under their wings, there's no greater feeling than that. When you get that support, when you get that envelopment of your folks. But what was the moment where you realized, man, we pulled it off? Like, I know there had to be some trepidation in the beginning. Like,
No question.
I understand you were thinking, I can do it. But it's different when it actually comes to fruition, when it actually, turns the corner. And
When
all
they
of y'all
finally
can
start
kinda,
respecting you.
Man, so what was that moment where y'all realized, damn, we was right?
Well, you have to understand the personalities.
Okay.
And I think Margot, understanding her personality, she was trained by Mr. Johnson from Ebony Johnson Publishing Company.
Absolutely.
BP,
Rob Johnson. Yeah, Bob
BT,
Johnson.
BT. Yeah.
Bob Johnson.
So, she learned a lot.
Right.
She was buying, she was selling, she was doing all of that. And just when she and I would have conversations, we would talk about, we need this for sponsorship to make this work, to lift it to the next level. I got this. We can make this happen. Give me some time. Let me think about it. We're going to put it together. She put it together. We worked through it. Let's add this. Let's take this away. Let's do this. And she went out and she got the money. I call her the bulldog because one thing she knows how to do is sell. Okay? And she is committed to this rodeo. Sometimes I think more than me. And she owns the responsibility of making sure we have the funds to do what we want to do. She's a creative person. She's a lot like Lou. She's creative. And she finds ways to finance her creativity, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So just knowing that I had that within her and she came through. And I would say the first year that we were successful in getting larger amounts of money, I'm like, I didn't have a major celebration. Really, it was just, okay, we did this. Okay. So if we did this, we can do more. Right. We can keep lifting and moving and creating this rodeo to the level of what we want it to be. And to be honest with you, I don't think we ever stopped and celebrated.
Right.
We just maybe in a quiet moment with each other, we would say, great job, good job. But in the next breath, okay, what's the next step?
Right.
Because we don't get the opportunity to celebrate like that. You've always got to be 10 steps ahead. And I will say this year was the first year that we actually celebrated everywhere we went and felt good about it.
That's awesome.
We sold out every show across this country that we had. The support we got, we celebrated that because we felt what we had created over the last 9 years got us to this point, and we wanted to share and celebrate with everybody else. So
that is awesome.
I hope that answered your question.
Absolutely.
I can tell you, for me personally, I felt very good about this year because I did celebrate. It was a hard year. First time a Black rodeo added over $200,000 in prize money and gifts anywhere in the United States. We did that. And I felt good that we were able to do that for the Black cowboys and cowgirls, that their journey with us for the last 40 years, they deserved something special.
Right.
And we were able to give that.
Well, not only did you give that, and so number one, I want to applaud you and your team because in the way you're so elegant and telling the story. But at the end of the day, I know it was tough. Okay. And
Very.
For you, flat out, for you to take over, and your team come together, and that's great from a dream standpoint. But then the reality of what you're dealing with over and over again in a space where there's not a lot of people that look like you, okay? That's tough to do. And I love what you said earlier when you said, hey, when he passed away, people came and was like, we don't want you to give this up. And what was your response? Your response was, I can't be selfish. If it was any time for you to say, I'm done, and to be fair, let's be fair, you could have easily, you did a lot. So it wasn't that you were being selfish, it's just it ran its course. But for you to have that stick-to-itiveness, and more importantly, want to continue to give to the community was beautiful. So my question is, talk about some of the other things outside of the rodeo, like your foundation, college fund, retreats that you guys still contribute and uplift people, Black people all around the country, right? That's outside of the rodeo.
Well, one of the things that I think we as a people have to remember is that when someone gives something to you, you should always give back. And we have been very fortunate that as we continued to rodeo 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. And I'm thinking 2019 was COVID.
2020.
2020. Okay, so 2019. Then we took 2 years off, 2020, and I'll share with you about 2021. But then we started back up in 2022, and it's like we didn't lose a beat. The community was there. They were ready. They were supporting us. So we have always had a nonprofit foundation where we gave scholarships in every city that we went to. We tried to identify a young person who was graduating from high school that was going to college in some profession that could be used, whether veterinarian, business, agriculture, whatever, that we could give a scholarship to and help. So we did that. In 2023, we realized as a result of COVID that we needed to do more. And we changed the name. Our name of our foundation was the Bill Pickett Memorial Scholarship Fund. We were just focused on scholarships. But we knew that we had to do more with our community. So we changed the name legally to the Bill Pickett Invitational Rodeo Foundation. Because while we were on timeout with COVID, it was our obligation to still feed our communities. And when I say feed them about our Black cowboys and cowgirls. We did virtual rodeos for them. We did videos of the cowboys and cowgirls, even our young people, just educating people about rodeo. We also educated people about COVID, what you need to do, your responsibility to yourself and to others. And that opened the door to say, you know what? We have such a large audience. Our impact can even be larger. So with that name change, we start focusing on wellness, suicide, violence, domestic violence, providing people the things that they needed to know, making sure they felt safe, giving them input, information, how to do what they needed to do. It was important that they saw us as a community resource. In 2023, the latter part of 2023, the USDA awarded us with a grant, which opened the doors for us to hold workshops with young Americans in every city to educate them about the opportunities that they don't know about that exists in agriculture and with the USDA. It's like a hidden gem that people hide from us. And so we're like, okay, we have thousands of people that come to us. I bet you we can get young adults that want to learn more. And guess what? We've been very successful. We've had workshops in every city that we've gone to this year. We did a 1-week retreat with 35 students. Tell me that was interesting experience to have 35 young people for a whole week, trying to entertain them, trying to educate them, and just embody them about what's real. And we did that. And I'm happy to say we forged relationships that not only with them, but with their parents, that they're still calling us. And we're getting ready to do 2 additional workshops here in Atlanta because the parents and the students were so impressed. They've gotten their friends together now, and they want them to be exposed to that. That's what I mean about giving back to the community. We each have a responsibility to help each other, uplift each other, and educate us about things that we don't know. Everybody is not going to be a LeBron James. Everybody is not going to be an Usher or a Beyonce. You know, so we need to create realistic awareness with our young people of things that they might be interested in, career opportunities that exist in those things. And so that's what we're doing. We're all over the place, creating new things every day. You know, I'm a 32-year breast cancer survivor. So I make sure at our finals in DC in September that we are focused on breast cancer. We also focus on prostate cancer. Men, you know how you guys are. You don't like to go to the doctor. You wait until it's too late. So we're trying to do those things that we can to say to them, we love you. You love us. We love you. Let's take this information and do something with it. Take care of yourself.
I love it. I love it. You know, I got to, you know, one of the things I was sitting here as you were saying all these things, 1984, when you got on that airplane, you were in the insurance industry.
Absolutely.
Okay. And, you know, I'm just sitting here just like, wow. And 40 something years later, you've been in the rodeo industry. You've partnered with somebody that was a maverick, and then you became a maverick and took that legacy to the next level.
If you like what you hear and want to join us on this journey of making uncomfortable conversations comfortable, please subscribe to a Black Executive Perspective podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe now to stay connected for more episodes that challenge, inspire, and lead the change.
And then to your point, now you're giving back. So if you had to, and I know you say you guys don't celebrate as much or whatever the case may be, and this year you were able to celebrate, but if you just took a second and look back 40 something years ago, 40 years ago, because it's, 84, 2024, what do you say? What do you take out of that? Because, there's an old saying, and this is just something I believe, is that God takes our weakness and makes it a strength. And sometimes where we think we want to go, our life is going, he has a curveball and throws a curveball. And if you're receptive to it, right, you got to be receptive to it. It takes you places that you never thought of. So can you speak to that a little bit?
I can, and I can tell you what personally gives me excitement about the rodeo today is that I would say in 2016 and 17, I can't remember the exact year, but we added some junior events to the rodeo. Junior barrel racing, junior breakaway, peewee barrel racing. Now we have 4 to 7-year-olds competing. And the juniors, they're 7 to 13. And when I see these kids, I mean, it just melts your heart because they are so passionate about what they do. And they never thought about, oh my God, I'm going to perform or compete in front of thousands of people. And they see the crowd standing on their feet, cheering them on. Can you imagine being 5 years old or 4 years old or 6 years old or even 9 years old and experiencing that? Thousands of people up celebrating you and what you're doing. Can you just imagine the encouragement that that's giving those young people? I get excited about that because what we have done is we have created our future champions. They are never going to leave rodeo. Trust me. They are excited. They are out there. They are becoming better at their events and their skills. And they form this little friendship, sisterhoods and brotherhoods with each other. And I get excited about seeing that because I know every time I see them, I'm seeing the future generation of Bill Pickett Invitational Rodeo. One day, one or a couple of those little kids are going to be leading this organization. And that's what I celebrate and I get excited about. You know, I had two young ladies, Kanisha Jackson and Denisha Henderson. I remember when their mothers were competing with them in their bellies. And they have grown up with the rodeo. Each of them have their own kids now. And their kids are those ones that I just talked about. You know, so you just see that and you know. Kanisha and Denisha came to me last year. And they said, Miss Valeria, we have this idea that we would like to bring to you. And I said, what is it? They said, we want to do a live rodeo talk for the Bill Pickett Invitational Rodeo. With the contestants before each rodeo, we're going to tell them, get them pumped up, get them psyched, and you know, and they've done it consistently. And they are creative and they take ownership of it. My two flag bearers that carry the American flag and the Black national flag. See, Paris is 15 and Courtney is 14. They didn't know each other. And so we asked them to do this for us because we didn't have anybody else. If I try to get somebody else to do that now, they not having it. That's they are so proud of that and what they do. And those are the things that I get excited about. Courtney and Paris didn't know each other when Paris came to the rodeo. Now, she's been with the rodeo about 5 years. Courtney was born in the rodeo, okay? So she's been with us for 14 years. And now Courtney and Paris are best friends. One lives in Arkansas, one lives in Hempstead, Texas. But just to see those girls at every rodeo, loving on each other, embracing each other, helping each other with their horses and stuff. They compete against each other. But it's about the love. I mean, you can't buy that anywhere. And so that's my celebration.
Over the years, you've cultivated a passion into something that has become a workshop for animal husbandry for Black folks, a venue, a sporting venue, a league that you own and manage for Black folks. You've been able to reach different states, different people on different levels. Obviously, coming from Illinois, I remember coming to Texas and my brother said, man, there's Black folks riding horses and doing all this other stuff down here. And he went to the Black Rodeo and he was so excited about it and went multiple times. In that, I would just like to congratulate and thank you, not just as a pillar of the community, But Miss Valeria, you're a pillar of the culture because you're a historian for Black folks as well. You're helping us understand where we fit into America, not just Black America, but America and the cowboy heritage that we inherited. And this goes on. And as you said, you're passing this on as a historian would. So you wear so many hats. And like you said, it's a lot of things going on. But I want to applaud you and thank you and your team for being all of these things that we need at this time in our history, in our place in the world, as we're still trying to make our way. You guys are just undeterred and undaunted and just making it happen. And so we definitely here at a Black Executive Perspective podcast want to applaud and salute you guys tremendously. So thank you.
Can I share one thing with you that I left out that I think is very important? The 2020 COVID, 2021 COVID still going on. And I'm sure each of you have heard of the PBR, Professional Bull Riding.
Bull riding, yep.
They are a multi-million-dollar operation. And they approached the Bill Pickett about partnering with them. We did a show with them in Vegas called Showdown in Vegas in 2021 at the MGM Grand. No other Black rodeo has ever been in the MGM Grand. First thing, you couldn't afford it. But we went in there with them in that partnership. It was televised live on national television by CBS on Juneteenth that year, which was the same year that President Biden made Juneteenth a national holiday. Now, you couldn't align the stars any better than that. So I must thank the PBR because that was something that helped elevate the Bill Pickett Invitational Rodeo.
Right.
They were so excited about the partnership on that day that they gave us, offered us a residency program in Fort Worth, Texas. And we do 4 shows there each year in partnership with the PBR. We're now entertaining international audiences. This February at our Black History Month celebration there in February, we had 9 different countries represented. We are live streamed on Pluto, every rodeo. They do Bill Pickett marathons on Juneteenth every year. I mean, if you just wanted rodeo, you can curl up on your couch, get your popcorn.
And just chill out, huh?
And just chill out for 24 hours watching the Bill Pickett Invitational Rodeo. So I am so thankful to them that they saw value in what we were doing and wanted to partner with us to help us elevate. I keep using that word.
Yeah.
You can't forget where you came from. And you always must strive to elevate yourself. So exactly. I absolutely wanted to talk about that partnership. And in Denver, Colorado, with the National Western Stock Show, in January, we do what is called the MLK Rodeo, which is live streamed on the Cowboy Channel. And we celebrate rodeo with Martin Luther King's message of unity and justice. So you can see that we use our platform to deliver a lot of different messages. Throughout the years, we rodeo and have fun with people.
That is awesome. And so I would like you to utilize this platform as you have thus far and give final thoughts. What would be some advice that you would give, because you are a giver and you guys have been giving for the last 40-something years. What some advice would you give a young person like yourself or a young individual like your husband in terms of them starting something that seems insurmountable and then being able to move forward to overcome it?
Wow, that's a loaded. That's loaded. And I kind of touched on this previously, and what I would like to say to young people is just understand that no journey in life is unattainable. And we have to start telling ourselves that, we've been beat down so much by society as a whole, and sometimes just by parents. Don't get me wrong. By
Right.
telling their kids they're nothing, they're never going to amount to anything. You have to have confidence in yourself. You have to decide what journey you want for yourself and then prepare yourself for that journey. Nobody is giving out anything. Nothing is going to come easy.
Right.
So you have to prepare yourself. So young people, do the work. Do the work. And then know if you do the work, you can accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. And I am especially biased to young women because we carry a lot of weight, or heavy burdens, I should say, because you're Black, you're a woman, and then you tried the rodeo. So don't let anybody tell you what you can or cannot do. I was communicating with one of our cowgirls. I'm going to just share this with you very briefly. She started the year, and it wasn't going well for her. And she had a couple bad rodeos, and she was so mad at herself. She said, I'm just going to quit. I said, you can't do that. You can't do that. And I know one of my staff members, cowgirl staff member, spent some time encouraging her, telling her, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this. She listened, and she came back. She won the 2024 Ladies Breakaway Championship.
Awesome.
As a result of that, she just competed in Denver, Colorado at the All-Star Rodeo there. She didn't win it, but she came in second.
Right.
And I just talked to her yesterday to say, I'm so glad you didn't quit. Now, are you glad you didn't quit? And all she could say was, thank you for the encouragement. That's what we have to do for each other.
Yes.
To lift each other up, not listen to the naysayers, not buy into the negative stuff. Just know whatever you want to do, you can accomplish if you prepare yourself and you invest time and work into it. People sometimes say, I want to do this. Okay, I know I want to do this, but they're not willing to put in the work.
Right.
Well, guess what? Nothing's going to happen. You got to put in the work. So that's my message. Have faith in yourself, have faith in God, and just keep moving forward. Don't let fear overtake your faith.
I definitely want to thank you. And I'm sure on behalf of the audience, thank you for being emblematic of confidence, coordination, and collaboration. Because the one thing that you said over and over again was it wasn't just you. You reached out and you accepted assistance, and you were embracing the community, and you were embracing partnerships. And it's not just one person doing it all. And you were able to leverage that by making sure that you tied in with the right folks and you coordinated your thoughts and made sure you understood where you guys were headed. And that's the greatest lesson in all of this. And that actually promotes the culture, right? So that confidence, that coordination, that collaboration promotes the culture. And we appreciate you. Thank you so much for sharing this story with us. I'm sure many people learned a lot. I know I did. I know Tony did. And I'm sure our audience would as well. So we just wanted to make sure that we thanked you specifically in that way as we move to the end of our episode.
Thank you. You know, I tell people all the time, I can be a tyrant because my belief, if you're going to do anything, do it well or don't do it at all. And I don't accept excuses. I don't accept mediocrity. And so I was telling somebody yesterday, you either learn to love me or hate me, but that's okay. I'm comfortable with either one of those.
Right.
Because if you're not going to perform at the level you need to perform, you don't need to be on my team.
Well, thank you. Well, listen, sounds like my mother. Because that's how my mother brought us up. So I love it. That's the only thing we know. But more importantly, to Chris's point, thank you. And you stay right here because you're going to help us with our call to action. So I think it's now time for
Tony's Tidbit.
So the tidbit is always based on what we talked about today. So today's tidbit is, in the rodeo of life, strength and determination are not just the spurs that drive us forward, but also showcase the power of a visionary woman leading the charge in a traditionally male-dominated arena. Commitment to lifting others up along the way. And that's what we heard today about Valeria Cunningham and the Bill Pickett Rodeo Invitation. So we want to thank her for coming on and sharing that power, that strength, that determination, and that faith.
Before we get out of here, we want to make sure that we remind all of you to tune in to our weekly segment, Need to Know with Nasinga. This is a segment where Dr. Nasinga Burton gives the Black Executive Perspective podcast a timely and crucial overview of topics that mean a lot to our culture, to the world, and to society as a whole. So make sure you don't forget to tune in each week to hear what she has to say, because it's powerful, it's passionate, and it's poignant. So make sure that you don't miss that, because you will regret it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely check her out. And I hope you enjoyed today's episode, Leading the Charge, Black Women Transforming Rodeo.
And then at this point in time, as we do, we'd like to invite you all to embrace and incorporate our call to action, which is LESS, L-E-S-S. And the L stands for learn. Educate yourself on racial and cultural nuances and expand your horizons and expose yourself to things that could make you grow. As Miss Valeria talked about, growth is the goal in order to hand that off to the next generation.
Absolutely. And listen, our goal is to decrease all forms of discrimination. So this is why less is important. So after you learn, now the E stands for empathy. Now you should be more empathetic to your friends and colleagues, because now you understand what they've been going through.
And then if I could say, the S is for sharing. Share your insights to enlighten others. I think I talked about that today, and our obligation to lift people up, enlighten them, and help them. So share, always share your insights.
Absolutely. Thank you, Valeria. And the final S stands for stop. We want to actively stop discrimination as it walks in our path. So if Grandpa says something at the Thanksgiving table that's inappropriate, you say, Grandpa, we don't believe in that, and you stop it right there. So if everyone can incorporate less, L-E-S-S, we'll build a more fairer and understanding world. and we'll all be able to see the change that we want to see, because less will become more.
I want to make sure that you guys continue to tune in, but more importantly, make sure you go to the website, sign up for the newsletter, leave us reviews, give us comments, give us, your take on things that we should be speaking on that we may not be aware of. Make sure that you give feedback on things that you have heard, because all of this stuff is expansive. It's so much meat on the bone, even for what Miss Valeria told us today. This, can't all be encompassed into just an hour. So make sure that you give us that feedback so we'll know where to guide this in the future. And Tony, where can they reach us?
Follow us on our socials, LinkedIn X, LinkedIn X, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at A Black Exec. For our fabulous, beautiful guest, Valeria Cunningham, president, owner of the Bill Pickett Invitational Rodeo. We thank her for coming on and sharing her perspective. For my co-host with the most, Crispy Reed, I'm Tony Tidbit. We talked about it. We love you. And guess what? We're out.
A Black Executive Perspective.